Have you ever heard a child's laughter echoing in an empty hallway at night, or the faint sound of tiny footsteps when you know you're all alone? In Cambodia, these aren't just tricks of the mind. They could be the first signs of a visit from one of the country's most tragic and unsettling spirits, the Kaun Kras Mae Mae, the ghost child that plays in the darkness. Tonight, we're diving deep into the heart-wrenching tale of this lonely spirit. Unlike many ghost stories that are born from vengeance or anger, the story of the Kaun Kras Mae Mae begins with immense sadness. These are the ghosts of children who were taken from the world far too soon. Maybe they died from a sudden illness, a tragic accident, or were victims of the cruelest fate of all, abandonment. Their young lives were cut short, leaving behind an innocent soul tied to the place where they drew their last breath. Imagine an old, creaky wooden house, a deserted schoolyard after the sun has set, or even just a single forgotten room in a bustling home. These are the places the Kaun Kras Mae Mae haunts. It's not looking for revenge. It's not trying to cause harm. It's simply a child, lost and alone, desperately searching for something it was denied in life: attention, comfort, and the warmth of a mother's love. The encounters often start innocently enough. You might be walking past an old, abandoned building and hear the faint sound of a child giggling. It's a playful sound, almost inviting. Or perhaps you're trying to sleep and you hear what sounds like marbles rolling across the floor in the room above. You might dismiss it as the house settling or the wind. But then it happens again. The soft patter of small feet running down a corridor, a toy car being pushed along the ground, or a ball bouncing softly against a wall. These are the ghost child's first attempts to be noticed. It's playing just like any child would. It wants you to know it's there. It wants someone to play with. The most chilling sound, the one that sends shivers down the spines of those who hear it, is a soft, plaintive cry in the night. A single word repeated over and over: Mae Mae. It's the Khmer word for mom. The child is calling for its mother, a mother who can no longer answer. At first, people might try to rationalize these sounds. It's just the neighbors. It's a stray cat. But what happens when you ignore the Kaun Kras Mae Mae? What happens when its playful attempts to get your attention are met with silence? That's when the atmosphere changes. The playful spirit, feeling ignored and forgotten all over again, grows desperate. Its loneliness turns to frustration, and its frustration turns to fear. The gentle laughter can morph into sorrowful, heart-wrenching sobs that seem to come from the very walls around you. The playful games stop. Instead of toys rolling on the floor, you might hear objects being thrown. A cup might slide off a table. A door might slam shut with no wind to push it. The soft call for Mae can become a desperate, wailing scream that pierces the silence of the night. The child isn't being malicious. It's throwing a tantrum. It's a spectral cry for help, a ghostly outburst from a soul that doesn't understand why it's so alone. Many stories from rural Cambodia tell of families moving into old houses and experiencing these phenomena. One well-known account speaks of a family who rented a traditional wooden house on stilts. For the first few weeks, everything was fine. Then, the wife began hearing a child humming at night, coming from underneath the house. She told her husband, who brushed it off. A few nights later, they both heard the distinct sound of a small child running back and forth on the wooden planks of their porch. They looked outside. Nothing. They checked on their own children, who were sound asleep. The sounds continued for days, growing more insistent. They started hearing a child crying, calling for its mother. The wife, feeling pity, left out a small bowl of rice and a toy car under the house one evening. That night, for the first time in weeks, the house was silent. They had acknowledged the spirit. They had shown it the kindness it craved. But not all encounters end so peacefully. Another story tells of a group of teenagers who dared to spend the night in an abandoned school, a place rumored to be haunted. They laughed and joked as they set up their camp in an empty classroom. Around midnight, they heard a faint giggle from the end of the hall. They called out, thinking it was a prank. The giggling continued, moving closer. Then they heard footsteps, running towards their room, stopping right outside the door. Silence. The teenagers, now terrified, huddled together. Suddenly, the chalk on the blackboard began to screech, drawing frantic, childish scribbles across the board all by itself. Books flew off the shelves, and the classroom door began to rattle violently. The teens fled in terror, never to return. They had treated the spirit's presence as a joke, and its lonely frustration had boiled over into a terrifying display of paranormal power. The legend of the Cawn Cras Camay is more than just a ghost story meant to scare children. It's a powerful and deeply sad cultural reminder of the fragility of life. In Cambodia's history, especially during times of war and hardship like the Khmer Rouge regime, countless children were lost. They died from starvation, sickness, and violence, often alone and separated from their families. Their stories were never told, their bodies never properly laid to rest. The Cawn Cras Camay gives a voice to these forgotten souls. It embodies the collective sorrow of a nation that lost a generation. The ghost isn't evil. It's a symbol of profound tragedy. It represents the idea that a child's need for love and connection is so powerful that it can transcend even death itself. When the spirit cries for its Mae, it's crying for every mother who lost a child, and for every child who died without a mother's embrace. So, how do people deal with such a spirit? Exorcisms and aggressive banishments are rarely the answer. You can't fight a Cawn Cras Camay with anger, because anger is not its language. The key is compassion. People who believe their homes are haunted by a child spirit are often advised to treat it like a living child. They might leave out offerings of candy, toys, or a small portion of their meal. They might speak to the spirit in a calm, soothing voice, telling it that it is not alone and that it is loved. Monks are sometimes invited to chant and offer blessings, not to drive the spirit away, but to bring it peace. The goal is to help the lost soul feel acknowledged and cared for, so that it can finally let go of its attachment to the physical world and move on. The story teaches a profound lesson. Sometimes the most frightening things are just expressions of deep sadness. The haunting isn't about scaring the living. It's about the dead desperately trying to be remembered. The tale of the Cawn Cras Camay serves as a chilling, poignant reminder to cherish the children in our lives, to listen to their needs, and to never let them feel forgotten. It's a ghost story where the true horror isn't the ghost itself, but the terrible loneliness that created it. So the next time you hear an unexplainable noise in the dead of night, a faint laugh, a soft cry, or the sound of tiny feet, pause for a moment before you feel fear. Think of the story of the Cawn Cras Camay. It might not be something you need to run from. It might just be a lost child, playing in the dark, hoping that someone, finally, will notice. Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of Cambodia's most haunting legends. If you found this story as fascinating and tragic as I do, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into folklore and mysteries from around the world. What are your thoughts on this story? Let me know in the comments below. Stay curious and stay safe.